The first phone slipped from my pocket with a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. It clattered against the marble floor, its ring a sharp, almost accusing sound that echoed in the silent penthouse. I froze. 5 pairs of eyes, all sharp, all calculating, turned toward me. The women were silent. Their beauty, their presence, their power, it was suffocating. Evelyn stood closest, her posture flawless, her gaze steady. Aria's lips pressed together, tense, betraying irritation or perhaps disbelief. Lena's eyes cut through me like a knife. Mira leaned against the ornate banister, quiet and observant. Sophia, the youngest, had that fragile air that could break at the slightest touch. And I was the interloper, the shadow, the boy who had stolen lives just by walking into their world. I crouched, pretending to pick up the phone. The motion was natural. Years of practice had taught me the subtlety of imitation. But the next phone slipped, and then another, until all 5 of them lay on the floor. Each one a world I had touched, each one a life I had borrowed. Evelyn's voice broke the silence. Who let this happen? There was no anger, just a controlled, deadly calm, the kind that makes a man consider fleeing even when there's nowhere to run. My voice faltered. What could I say? That I had become them. That every word I spoke, every gesture, every laugh, had been rehearsed. That I had lived years of their lives better than they had themselves. Aria stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. We trusted you, she said, her voice almost a whisper, but sharp enough to make my spine shiver. I opened my mouth, then closed it. Truths aren't always spoken. Sometimes they manifest only in silence. 3 years ago, I had been nothing. A shadow in a city where shadows are ignored. I had no family, no money, no identity. Then Evelyn had found me. She had looked at me and said, "You're invisible. That's your power." And she was right. That invisibility had become my weapon. My ticket into 5 separate lives. 5 identities I had to inhabit simultaneously, perfectly, without a single misstep. Each day had been a careful dance. The right words, the right gestures, the right smiles. And for a long time, it had worked. Until tonight. The 5th phone lay on the marble floor, reflecting the dim light like a silent accusation. My chest tightened. They knew, or at least, they suspected. Explain, Evelyn said softly, and for the first time in years, the calm in her voice carried threat, not guidance. I wanted to speak. I wanted to confess. But confession was useless now. It would change nothing, and it could destroy everything. From the other side of the room, Sophia's voice trembled. Was any of it real? Yes, I whispered. And that simple admission, me standing alone, admitting one small piece of truth, was enough to fracture the illusion I had maintained for years. I had to leave. The penthouse, the weight of their eyes, the unspoken accusation, I had to escape. But as I reached the door, another phone buzzed violently in my pocket. 6th. My pulse spiked. The screen lit up with a name that froze my blood. Real heiress. The air around me grew thick. I didn't answer. Some truths are heavier than lies, and this one carried the weight of years of deception. A text followed. Turn around. I obeyed before thinking, and there she was, standing across the deserted street, under a flickering streetlight. Calm. Perfect. Watching. You took your time, she said. Her voice wasn't sharp, wasn't angry, it was precise, like a scalpel cutting into everything I thought I knew. I didn't know if you were real, I said. Her faint smile made my stomach twist. And yet, here you are. Up close, she wasn't like the others. Not in posture, not in expression. She had no performance, no mask. She was real. She was dangerous. You've worked for them, she said. Evelyn, Aria, Lena, Sophia, Mira. I nodded slowly. I became them. No, she corrected. You wanted to. The words struck harder than any accusation. I had wanted this life. The thrill, the power, the thrill of being someone else. The thrill of being anyone. Who are you? I asked. I am the reason they exist, she said, simple, direct. Her words dropped like stones into the pit of my chest. They are not just heiresses, she continued. They are fragments of me, trained separately, given separate lives, skills, and opportunities. They were never meant to meet, never meant to exist together. I swallowed hard. And you are the anomaly, she said, the word sharp, precise. My heart raced. An anomaly, yes, she said, stepping closer. You are the variable I never accounted for. The error in a perfect system. I laughed bitterly. Then why am I still here? Her eyes bore into mine. Because now, you are the only one who can choose what happens next. And with that, the weight of every stolen life, every borrowed smile, every shadow I had inhabited, pressed down on me. I wasn't just caught. I was central to the design. I wanted to run. I wanted to disappear. But I couldn't. Not now. Not after the first crack in the glass had appeared. I stood frozen, under the flickering light, the wind biting at my skin, and realized, the game I had been playing for years was over. And the true story was only beginning. The penthouse was silent when I returned. Silent, but heavier somehow, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the weight of the secrets we all carried. The 5 phones lay scattered on the marble floor, little islands of my deception, each buzzing occasionally with notifications that I ignored. My steps echoed as I moved across the room, and I could feel their eyes, Evelyn's, Aria's, Lena's, Myra's, Sophia's, tracking me like predators circling prey. Evelyn was first to speak, her tone calm yet unnervingly sharp. You think you've escaped, but you're already here. Her gaze pierced me, steady and unyielding, a reminder that for all my tricks, for all my mimicry, I had never been truly invisible. Aria leaned against the wall, arms crossed, her expression unreadable, yet I could sense the calculation in her stance. 5 of us, 1 of him, she muttered, almost to herself. And yet he dares to walk in like he owns the room. I swallowed hard, aware that the walls had witnessed every moment of my impersonation. Each heiress had a version of me that existed only for her, carefully constructed, carefully controlled. Yet now, standing in the middle of the penthouse, I felt exposed, naked beneath their scrutiny. Sophia's voice broke the tension. Was any of it real? The fragility in her tone, the uncertainty, it cut deeper than any accusation. Yes, I said softly, the single word hanging between us like a fragile thread. Mira tilted her head slightly, her eyes studying me with a calmness that unnerved me more than anger ever could. Real, she asked, is that what you call it? Because from where we stand, you've been a ghost in our lives. A shadow, a fragment of something you weren't supposed to be. The accusation stung. It was true. I had been everything and nothing, moving seamlessly between their lives, learning their quirks, their weaknesses, their fears, and reflecting them back like some twisted mirror. I had been their stand-in, their illusion, their secret. Evelyn stepped closer, her heels clicking softly on the floor. You think a simple apology will fix this? That one word, real, undoes the years of manipulation, the moments you took for yourself. I never wanted to hurt anyone, I said, my voice trembling slightly. I only wanted to survive. Survive. Aria's laugh was low, almost bitter. Do you think any of us were less alive than you were? Do you think we didn't feel every single step you took in our names? I flinched. She was right. They had lived their lives, unaware of the shadow that danced alongside them, replicating their smiles, their gestures, their voices. And I had believed my invisibility made it harmless. Evelyn's eyes softened, just slightly, as she studied me. You weren't harmless. You were a catalyst for everything that came after. Every choice, every fracture in our lives, every hidden fear, it passed through you, and now it's all out in the open. Sophia stepped forward, her small hand brushing against one of the phones. I don't understand, she whispered. Why now? Why are you telling us this? Because you need to know, I said. Because you deserve to know who's been living in your shadow. The air in the room thickened. Every breath felt heavier, laden with the weight of truth and the inevitability of confrontation. Lena's gaze was sharp, cutting through the tension. "And what about her?" she asked suddenly. "The one who made us. The one who gave us life and control and all of this." My stomach tightened. I hadn't expected that question, and yet it had been lingering, unspoken, in all of our minds. Evelyn's expression darkened slightly. "She's coming," she said quietly, almost as if the word itself were a warning. Arya's fists clenched. "Then we prepare," she said. "We don't wait for her. We take control of what we can." Myra's gaze shifted to me, calculating, sharp. "And what about him?" she asked. "The one who has been everywhere and nowhere, touching every part of our lives without our consent." I didn't answer immediately, because to answer meant to betray more than just myself. It meant to reveal the choices I had made, the lines I had crossed. I'm not sure anymore," I admitted finally. "I don't know what's right. I don't know whose side I'm on. But I do know this. She's coming, and if we do nothing." Sophia shivered slightly. "Then she will erase us." "Not erase," Evelyn corrected. "Reset. Start over. Pretend we never existed." "And what do you want me to do?" I asked, my voice almost breaking. "I'm the anomaly. I'm the one she didn't plan for. Do I help her, or help you?" Evelyn's eyes met mine, unwavering. "You are the bridge," she said simply. "Between us and her. You are the only one who can navigate what comes next. Your choices will decide whether we survive or disappear." The room felt smaller suddenly, the walls closing in. The five of them stared at me, their presence overwhelming, yet human, real, alive. And for the first time, I felt the full weight of everything I had done, everything I had become, and everything I could destroy. Arya stepped forward, her voice fierce. "Then choose," she said. "Choose what matters. Choose who you want to save." I swallowed hard, realizing the truth. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It wasn't just about secrecy or deception. It was about life itself. Their lives, my life, and the impossible weight of decisions I was never meant to carry. For the first time in years, I didn't want to run. I didn't want to hide. I wanted to face the storm, the heiresses, the real architect behind their lives. I wanted to confront the chaos I had helped create. And yet, as I looked into each of their eyes, Evelyn's control, Arya's fire, Lena's sharpness, Myra's quiet calculation, Sophia's fragile hope, I knew one thing: nothing would ever be simple again. The phones vibrated again. 6th, 7th. The real heiress had found me. The anomaly was no longer invisible. And the game, the life I had built between shadows and facades, was about to collapse entirely. I took a deep breath, my heart hammering, and realized, tonight, nothing would be the same. The night air was sharp, biting through the thin fabric of my jacket as I walked the deserted streets. Every step echoed, but it was more than sound. It was the rhythm of my nerves, each heartbeat pounding like a drum in my chest. The city slept, oblivious to the storm I was about to face. I didn't dare look back. I knew she would be there, waiting. And she was. A streetlight flickered above, casting a halo of pale light over her figure. She didn't move, didn't breathe exaggeratedly, didn't announce herself. She simply existed, and in that existence, she commanded everything around her. The real heiress, the architect of the lives I had stolen, the woman whose design had built and shattered 5 of the most powerful lives I had ever touched, stood in front of me. "You took your time," she said, her voice cutting through the night like glass. There was no accusation in it, no anger. Only precision. A calm so cold it made my veins constrict. I didn't know if you were real," I said, trying to steady my voice, though I knew it sounded fragile. She smiled faintly, almost amused. "And yet, here you are." Her eyes were different from the others. Evelyn's had been sharp, Arya's fiery, Lena's calculating, Myra's observant, Sophia's fragile, but hers. Hers were the eyes of a person who saw everything, understood everything, and feared nothing. Dangerous, perfectly dangerous. You've been everywhere, she continued, stepping closer. In all their lives, in all their rooms, in every smile they ever believed was theirs. You've been there. I became them, I said, almost automatically. Years of practice made the words sound like fact, not confession. No, she said softly, a single word that carried more weight than any accusation could. You wanted to. The truth struck me harder than any blow. She was right. I had wanted this life. I had wanted to feel alive in someone else's shoes. I had wanted the thrill of control, the illusion of power. And now, confronted with her presence, I realized how naive that desire had been. I am the reason they exist, she said suddenly, stepping closer, her shadow blending with mine in the flickering light. Evelyn, Aria, Lena, Mira, Sophia, none of them would exist if it weren't for me. My stomach twisted. Every moment I had spent as their stand-in, every smile I had borrowed, every gesture I had mirrored, it had all been under her design. The 5 women I had lived as, laughed with, sometimes even loved in fragments, were hers. They're not just people, she continued, voice even, deliberate. They're fragments of me, crafted, trained, separated. Each designed to be perfect in isolation. They were never meant to intersect. And you were the anomaly. An anomaly. I swallowed hard. The word echoed in my skull. What does that mean? I asked, my throat tight. It means, she said, her eyes boring into mine, you are the variable I never accounted for. The error in the system. I laughed bitterly, though it sounded hollow. Then why am I still here? Because now, she said, stepping so close that I could see the faint glimmer of calculation in her pupils, you are the only one who can decide what happens next. My mind spun. For years I had thought I was in control. I had thought my invisibility, my mimicry, my shadows, had made me untouchable. And yet here she was, standing over me like a storm I couldn't outrun, and suddenly, I was the pawn in a game far bigger than I had imagined. Choose, she said. Choose between what is, and what should be. Between them, and the design. The weight of her words pressed down like iron chains. The 5 heiresses I had impersonated, the lives I had lived, the bonds I had formed, even the moments I had cherished, they were all now intertwined with her plan. And in the center of it all, I stood exposed. You think I'll follow your plan? I asked, my voice shaking despite my best effort. You have no choice, she said. You are the bridge, the conduit between what I've built and what survives. Without you, everything collapses. I realized then what it meant. Not just for me, but for Evelyn, Aria, Lena, Mira, and Sophia. Every decision I had made, every lie I had told, every life I had stepped into, they had all led to this moment. I won't let you erase them, I said finally, the words louder than I expected. She studied me. Her eyes narrowed slightly, just enough to unsettle me. And why would you protect them? They are my creations. Perfect, controlled. And yet, here you are, defending the chaos you've caused. Because they are alive, I said. Because they're not just your designs, they're people. And I've seen them, I've known them, I can't let them vanish. For the first time, her expression faltered. Not in anger, but in calculation. A slight tilt of her head, a flicker of uncertainty, just a fraction, but enough for me to sense a crack in her perfection. You think you can defy me? She whispered, more to herself than to me. I don't think, I said. I know, I'll do whatever it takes. The night seemed to hold its breath. The street lamp flickered, the shadows danced along the asphalt, and in that silence, I understood the gravity of the situation. She had created them, shaped them, controlled them, and now, she had created me to decide their fate. I was the anomaly, the bridge, the decision maker, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly alive, because the storm I had been hiding from for years was finally here. The penthouse felt different now. The air was thick with tension, heavier than before. Even the walls seemed to hum with the energy of unspoken truths. The 5 phones lay scattered across the marble, inert yet alive, glowing faintly as though sensing the storm that had begun to breach the fragile boundaries of our lives. Evelyn stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows, her silhouette outlined against the city lights, calm yet brimming with contained energy. She had always been the anchor, the one who controlled the group, who kept the illusion steady, but now even her composure seemed strained. Arya paced slowly, her heels clicking sharply against the marble. "We're all being played," she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "Every single one of us. And he's the key. The anomaly. He's in the middle of everything, and we can't even touch him." I remained still, unsure if I should speak. My presence was no longer a secret, yet the weight of their mistrust pressed down like iron. Lena's eyes, sharp and unrelenting, locked onto me. "You knew," she said. Her voice was flat, almost clinical, but the accusation was unmistakable. "Every time you smiled as me, laughed as me, pretended to be me, you knew you were stealing our lives." "I didn't steal," I said quietly, my voice trembling slightly. I survived. I became what you needed me to be because no one else could. I didn't hurt you. Not intentionally. Not intentionally." Myra's voice was cold, cutting like a blade. "You've lived all our moments, made our choices, and now you stand here, asking for forgiveness with those same eyes we've trusted for years." I couldn't answer, and in that silence, Sophia, the youngest, spoke softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe he didn't know better. Maybe he just wanted to be seen." The room froze. Her words hung in the air like a fragile bridge, connecting accusation and understanding, doubt and hope. For a moment, no one spoke. The city outside pulsed quietly, indifferent to the drama unfolding inside the penthouse. Evelyn finally turned toward me, her gaze unwavering. "He's telling the truth," she said. "And that truth is more dangerous than any lie." Arya snorted, frustration and disbelief mixing. "Dangerous how? He's human. He's flawed. He's been in our lives. Yes, but he's just a boy. He's not powerful. He can't stop her." Evelyn shook her head. "He can, because she relies on him. We all do. Without him, none of us survive what's coming." A chill ran down my spine. Even after years of impersonation, of living in shadows, I felt exposed, vulnerable, and essential all at once. The real heiress, the architect of everything, had designed a system where I was the wild card. My existence tipped the balance, and now every decision, every word, every gesture carried consequences I could no longer ignore. Lena stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. "So what now?" she asked. "We wait, we beg him to save us. Or do we fight back on our own?" "We fight," Evelyn said firmly, her voice calm but commanding. "But strategically. We do not destroy. We do not confront blindly. We move as one, as we always should have. And we protect ourselves. He may be the bridge, but we are the foundation." Arya's jaw tightened. "And what if he betrays us? What if he chooses her over us?" I flinched. The possibility existed. I could not predict my own choices, not fully. And yet, the truth was undeniable. I had formed attachments, bonds with these 5 women. Not just the facades I had worn, but the fragments of humanity I had glimpsed, the moments that had been real in ways I hadn't expected. Sophia took a step forward. "We can't think like that," she said softly. "He's the only one who's been with us the whole time. He knows our weaknesses, our fears, maybe. He's the only one who can truly help us survive." The others didn't respond immediately. Their silence was heavy, contemplative, charged with tension. I could feel the gaze on me, the weight of judgment and expectation pressing down. Evelyn moved closer, her hand brushing mine ever so slightly. "We must trust him, but we also prepare. Always prepare." Her words resonated deeply. For years, we had been puppets in a carefully constructed performance. And now, With the real heiress looming like a storm on the horizon, preparation was the only shield against total annihilation. Arya finally spoke again, her voice sharper, tinged with determination. Then we plan. Every move, every contingency. If she comes for us, we'll be ready. And if he truly chooses to stand with us, then maybe we have a chance. Myra's gaze flicked between all of us, calculating, assessing. And if he doesn't? The room fell silent. That unspoken question carried the weight of life and death, freedom and control. It was a truth none of us wanted to admit but all of us feared. I swallowed hard, feeling the enormity of my role for the first time. Not just as a stand-in, not just as an anomaly, but as a deciding force. Every choice I made from this point onward could save them, or destroy them. The 5 women moved closer together, forming a circle of silent strength. Evelyn, Arya, Lena, Mira, Sophia, each unique, each powerful, yet now united by a fragile trust that depended entirely on me. For the first time, I realized the depth of what I had created in them, not as their imposter, but as the one who had been present in every shadow of their lives. And I understood this truth: survival would demand more than loyalty, more than cunning, more than strength. It would demand sacrifice, courage, and a willingness to face the storm together. The night outside deepened, stars flickering like distant promises, and I knew that the real heiress was watching, waiting, testing, ready to strike. Our fragile alliance, shaky and uncertain though it was, would be the only thing standing between us and erasure. And in that moment, I made a silent vow: no matter the cost, no matter the danger, no matter the storm ahead, I would protect them. Not because I had to, but because they were alive, and they deserved to survive, even if it meant defying the architect of their lives herself. The morning sun barely touched the edges of the city skyline, casting pale streaks of light across the penthouse floor. Dust motes floated lazily in the beams, indifferent to the storm that had erupted in our lives. I sat on the edge of a sleek black leather sofa, staring at the 5 phones, each one a symbol of my duplicity, each one a silent witness to years of borrowed lives. The heiresses were already awake, moving through the penthouse with an energy that was both calculated and frayed. Evelyn was at the window, her reflection fractured in the glass, as if multiple versions of her existed simultaneously. Arya was pacing, sharper than ever, her mind clearly working through strategies, contingencies, possibilities. Lena was silently inspecting the room, noting exits, shadows, vulnerabilities, her analytical mind already plotting. Mira had taken a corner, quietly observing, her calmness a thin veil over the storm in her mind. And Sophia, she lingered near me, her eyes hesitant, searching for reassurance in a world suddenly destabilized. The tension was suffocating. "You've been here for hours," Evelyn said finally, her voice breaking the silence, precise yet measured. "Thinking, planning, wondering how we will survive what's coming. And yet, none of us have heard from her." "She's waiting," I murmured, almost to myself. "She knows we're aware. She knows we're preparing. She'll strike when we're at our most divided." Arya stopped pacing and glared at me. "You speak as if you know her, as if you've seen her plans, as if you can anticipate her moves. But how much do you really know? How much have you seen?" I looked down at the phones again, the cold plastic against my fingers a reminder of every lie I had told, every identity I had borrowed. "Enough," I said. "Enough to know that she will exploit every weakness, every doubt, every fracture between you 5. Lena stepped forward, her voice low but cutting. "And what about us?" I looked at each of them, realizing in that moment that they were not just my allies. They were real, human, unpredictable. They were more than designs, more than fragments of someone else. "You are alive," I said. "Alive in ways she cannot touch, cannot control. And that is your power." Evelyn's gaze softened slightly, but her eyes remained sharp. "Then we prepare. But we also watch each other. Trust is fragile now, more fragile than it's ever been." The words hung in the air, a silent warning. And that warning was not idle. Hours passed. Strategy discussions, mapping out the penthouse, analyzing escape routes, contingency plans, they all blurred into a haze of tension and purpose. But beneath the surface, undercurrents of doubt began to shift, subtle yet undeniable. It was Arya who first voiced it, almost casually, almost as if testing the waters. Do we even know he's fully on our side? Her gaze flicked toward me, sharp, calculating. I mean, he has been everywhere, seen everything, taken our lives in his hands. And now he decides to protect us. What guarantee do we have that he won't choose her? The room froze. Even Evelyn's composure faltered, a subtle tightening at the jaw, a flicker of doubt. Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. But he's been with us all this time. He knows us. Doesn't that count for something? Mira tilted her head, eyes narrowing. It counts for everything or nothing. Right now, it counts for a question we cannot answer. How loyal is he really? How far will he go for us? I felt the weight of their words like stones pressing down on my chest. I wanted to answer, to reassure, to prove that I had chosen them. But the truth was a knife twisting inside me. I had no guarantees. I had no certainty, only choice, and the knowledge that any choice I made could save or destroy them all. Then, the first betrayal emerged. Lena's sharp eyes caught something. A subtle movement, a shadow that did not belong. She froze mid-step, her analytical mind racing. Wait, she said suddenly. One of the phones, it just activated on its own. We all turned. The phone's screen glowed with a message. I see you. I know what you're planning. Don't trust him completely. The words hit us like ice water. Panic, doubt, suspicion, it all coiled into a single, suffocating presence. The real heiress had made her move, planting the seed of distrust even before her arrival. Arya's lips pressed into a thin line. So it begins, she muttered, eyes flashing. She's already manipulating us, and she's using him to do it. I shook my head, heart pounding. No, not me. I haven't. Then explain it. Arya snapped, frustration boiling over. Because right now, all we have is a message that says we cannot trust the one person who could protect us. Evelyn raised her hand, silencing the room with a single gesture. Enough, she said, voice calm but resolute. We proceed as one. Yes, the message is meant to divide us. But we will not fall into her trap. We plan, we watch, and we act. Together. Myra's eyes met mine, sharp and probing. Together, she repeated. But he is still the variable. The anomaly. If we fail to understand him fully, we fail ourselves. I felt a cold dread creep along my spine. They were right. The storm wasn't just outside the penthouse. It was inside, within the fragile trust we had built. Every glance, every word, every hesitation was a thread in a web that the real heiress was spinning. And one wrong move could unravel everything. Sophia stepped closer to me, her small hand brushing mine again. We have to trust him, she whispered. We don't have a choice. And in that moment, I realized the bitter truth. She was right. I was the anomaly, the bridge, the deciding force. But even as I stood with them, united yet fractured, the first cracks had appeared. Doubt, suspicion, betrayal lurking just beneath the surface. The real heiress was coming. And when she arrived, the fragile alliance we had forged might not withstand the storm. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility, of fear, and of something else, something I hadn't expected, a fierce, stubborn resolve. If they were to survive, I had to navigate not only her manipulations but the storm within the penthouse itself. And I had to do it before the first move had even been made. The room fell silent, each of us lost in thought, aware that the web of deception was tightening. Outside, the city hummed, oblivious to the drama unfolding within these walls. And in the shadows of our alliance, one truth became undeniably clear: nothing would ever be simple again. The penthouse felt smaller now, the walls pressing in with every heartbeat. The morning sunlight had faded to a cold gray as storm clouds gathered over the city. Outside, Distant thunder rumbled, a subtle reminder that nature itself seemed to anticipate the chaos within. We had been preparing, talking through plans, rehearsing contingencies, and yet nothing could have readied us for her. The real heiress, the woman who had orchestrated everything, stepped into the penthouse without warning, her presence filling every corner, every shadow. She moved with a fluid grace that was almost hypnotic, heels clicking lightly against the marble as if the floor itself welcomed her command. Evelyn, Aria, Lena, Mira, and Sophia froze, their training, their strategy, their composure, all suspended in a breathless moment of awe and fear. "I see you've prepared," she said, her voice calm but electric, vibrating with authority. "And yet, I wonder, have you truly prepared for me?" Evelyn stepped forward, tall and unwavering. "We have prepared for everything," she said firmly, though her eyes betrayed the flicker of uncertainty. The heiress's gaze swept across all of us, lingering on me last. "And you," she said softly, almost a whisper, yet it carried the weight of inevitability. "The anomaly, the bridge, the one who has lived in their shadows, and yet, claims to protect them. What a curious choice." "I protect them because they deserve it," I said, my voice steady despite the storm coiling in my chest. "Not because you made them. Not because you own them. Because they're alive, and I won't let you erase them." A slow, deliberate smile curved her lips. "Erase? Oh. No. I prefer refinement, correction, control." She paused, tilting her head. "And yet, here you are, claiming allegiance to what I created. Tell me, what makes you think you have that right?" Before I could answer, Aria stepped forward, defiance in every line of her body. "Because we're not your puppets anymore," she spat. "We're people, not experiments. And we won't let you manipulate us further." The heiress's eyes flickered with amusement. "People," she repeated softly, almost mockingly. "Oh. My dear Aria, people follow rules. People obey systems. People are predictable. And that is where you've all failed." Lena's jaw tightened. "Enough talk. We know your games. And we know what you're trying to do. You manipulate, you divide, you exploit weaknesses, but we won't fall for it." Her gaze shifted to Lena, sharp and cold. "Divide and exploit, perhaps, but I don't divide where there is no unity. And I have seen your cracks, your doubts, your fear, amplified by the one who stands between us." Her eyes met mine, and I felt the weight of her scrutiny like a physical force. I swallowed hard. She was right. I was the anomaly, the bridge, the variable. Every hesitation, every glance, every subtle expression could betray the heiresses or save them. And in that instant, I understood the gravity of my role more acutely than ever. Sophia stepped closer to me, her voice trembling yet determined. "We're stronger together. We can survive this. But we need him. We need you." The heiress's smile widened, and for the first time, it was cold, predatory. "Ah. The youngest sees clearly. She understands loyalty. But loyalty can be tested." She snapped her fingers, and a soft, almost imperceptible chime echoed through the penthouse. Suddenly, the phones began to vibrate simultaneously, a symphony of warnings. Each heiress picked up their own device, reading the messages flashing across the screens. "Trust is a luxury. Loyalty is a choice. Choose poorly, and everything disappears." Panic, doubt, and suspicion rippled through the room. Even Evelyn faltered for a split second. Aria's hand tightened around her phone. Lena's eyes narrowed, calculating, searching for patterns. Myra's calm exterior began to crack. And Sophia, she looked at me, pleading silently. The heiress's gaze swept across all of us. "Do you see now? The game has begun, and the first move belongs to me." Aria's voice was sharp, fierce. "Then we counter. Together." The heiress laughed softly, a sound that made the air itself feel thinner. "Together, we shall see. I will test every bond, every allegiance, every secret you've kept from one another." She stepped closer to me, her presence suffocating. "And you will decide who survives, who lives, who dies, and perhaps, Who becomes my next creation? My chest tightened. I had lived in shadows for years, but now the storm was here, fully unleashed. The heiresses' trust in me, their fragile unity, their human strength, all depended on my choices. One wrong move, one hesitation, and everything would collapse. Evelyn's voice cut through the tension. We will not fail. Not now. Not ever. The heiress tilted her head, studying her creations. We shall see, she whispered, before stepping back, disappearing into the shadows of the penthouse as suddenly as she had arrived. The silence that followed was deafening. The storm outside rumbled again, echoing the chaos now etched into our hearts. Arya broke the silence, voice tight. She's testing us. Every move we make, every glance, every thought, she'll exploit it. And she knows him. She looked at me, suspicion flickering in her eyes. And she knows you're the bridge. The one who can tip the scales. How do we even know where your loyalties lie? I felt the weight of her words like a physical blow. Because I choose them, I said finally, voice firm. Not her, not anyone else. Them, always them. Sophia's small hand squeezed mine. Then we survive together, she whispered. Evelyn nodded slowly, eyes steely. Together, she echoed. And no matter what she throws at us, no matter the games, no matter the betrayals, we will endure. But even as we formed that fragile circle of trust, doubt lingered like a shadow. We knew the real heiress would strike again, testing every bond, every loyalty, every choice. And in the silence that followed, I realized a terrifying truth. The storm had only just begun. The penthouse felt like a battlefield. The air was thick with tension, charged with fear, suspicion, and the electric promise of violence. Outside, thunder rumbled like the growl of a predator, and rain lashed against the windows in staccato bursts, mirroring the chaos inside. Since the heiress's arrival, nothing had been the same. Every glance, every whisper, every hesitation was now a test. And I was the bridge, the anomaly, the deciding force between survival and annihilation. It began subtly. Lena noticed it first, her analytical mind catching the small inconsistencies in Arya's behavior. A hesitation in a gesture, a flicker in her eyes, a whispered word that didn't match her usual tone. She's hiding something, Lena muttered under her breath, eyes narrowing. Arya's defensiveness flared instantly. I am not, she snapped, voice echoing through the room. Her fury, though genuine, only seeded further doubt. Then why did the phone activate on your side? Lena countered sharply, holding up a device. Why did the message appear to you first? Something's not right. I watched silently, knowing the truth. The real heiress had been manipulating us, planting seeds of mistrust, watching as our unity fractured from within. And it was working. Sophia, still small and fragile but resolute, stepped between them. Stop, she cried. This is exactly what she wants. We can't turn on each other now. Evelyn's eyes were calm but sharp, taking in the tension, the fear, the uncertainty. She's testing our bonds, she said softly. We must not break, not now. But the cracks had already appeared. Arya's voice trembled, her defiance mixing with doubt. And what if he chooses her over us? She asked, her eyes flashing toward me. What if he's part of the trap? The words hit me like a physical blow. I had lived years in their lives, mimicked their smiles, stolen their gestures, and now my loyalty was being questioned at the exact moment it mattered most. I am with you, I said firmly, stepping forward. Not her, not anyone else. You, always you. But trust is fragile, doubt is faster, and the heiress's influence had already begun to poison the room. Then it happened. A sudden movement, a whisper, and Arya lunged toward one of the phones. Her hand shook as she opened the message. Not all alliances are what they seem. The bridge may break. Choose wisely. Her eyes widened in horror, then suspicion, and finally anger. He's part of this, she shouted, pointing at me. He's playing us all. Panic erupted. Lena pulled Arya back. Mira moved instinctively to shield me. Evelyn stood firm, and Sophia's small voice wavered in the chaos. Stop, please, stop, you're letting her control you. The storm outside seemed to echo the one inside. Thunder cracked, lights flickered, and the penthouse felt like it was closing in on us. I realized then that words alone could not rebuild trust in the face of fear and manipulation. Actions would speak. I moved quickly, stepping between the heiresses and the phones. Listen to me, I shouted over the roar of the storm. I have never betrayed you. Every move I've made, every choice I've taken, it's been to protect you, to give you a chance to survive. She is the one manipulating us, not me. For a heartbeat, silence. Then Evelyn stepped forward, her presence grounding us, her calm a lifeline. We cannot allow fear to destroy us, she said. We decide our fate, not her. We trust, but we verify. And we act together. Arya's gaze softened, just slightly, but suspicion still lingered. How do we know? She whispered. How do we know he's truly with us? I looked into each of their eyes. Evelyn's unwavering, Lena's calculating, Myra's observant, Sophia's trusting, Arya's conflicted, and I made the choice I had been preparing for. The one that would define all our fates. I picked up the 5 phones, placing them on the marble table. With deliberate care, I activated a sequence I had hidden, one designed to trace every manipulation, every message, every attempt by the real heiress to fracture us. Data streamed across the screens, revealing patterns, exposures, and the truth behind every deception. She's been testing us, I said, voice steady, but now we can see. Every message, every manipulation, every doubt she planted. We can counter it. We are not her puppets. We are alive. We are real. And we will survive. The heiresses stared at the screens, disbelief and awe mingling in their eyes. The patterns were undeniable. The manipulation, the traps, the psychological warfare, it was all laid bare. Arya's voice trembled, but with renewed determination. Then we fight. Together. Lena's analytical mind nodded. We have the data. We have the strategy. We control the next moves. Myra's calm returned, sharper now, focused. We anticipate. We act. And we survive. Sophia's small hand found mine again. Together, she whispered. Evelyn stepped back, letting the room breathe, her eyes meeting mine. He chose us, she said softly. Not her. And that is all that matters. The storm outside began to abate, the thunder fading to distant rumbles, the rain slowing. But inside, the tension remained, tempered now with clarity and determination. The real heiress would strike again, but now we had knowledge, unity, and a plan. And I, the anomaly, the bridge, the deciding force, knew one thing with absolute certainty. No manipulation, no deception, no storm could break what had been forged here tonight. We were fractured, yes, but we were also resolute. And that resoluteness would carry us into the final confrontation. The penthouse was quiet, but the silence was heavy, pregnant with the aftermath of chaos. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving streets slick with rain, neon reflections shimmering like fractured memories. Inside, the air was still thick with tension, but it carried something new, clarity, resolution, and the fragile pulse of survival. The real heiress had returned once more, her presence undeniable even before she stepped into the room. She moved slowly, deliberately, as if savoring the culmination of her manipulations. Her eyes swept across Evelyn, Arya, Lena, Mira, and Sophia, lingering on me last. A cold, almost imperceptible smile played on her lips. You've seen everything, she said softly, voice like silk and steel intertwined. Every move, every secret, every bond you've forged, and yet, you survived. How curious. Evelyn stood tall, shoulders squared, her voice calm but resolute. We survive because we choose to. Not because you allow it, not because you designed it, but because we are alive. And being alive means fighting for one another. The heiress's gaze shifted to me, the anomaly, the bridge between chaos and order. And you, what will you choose? The lives you've touched, or the power you've feared? I felt the weight of her words like a physical force. For years, I had lived in shadows, borrowed identities, stolen moments. And now, the final choice rested entirely on me. One decision could save them, or it could destroy everything. I stepped forward, the eyes of the 5 heiresses upon me, their trust and hope mingled with doubt and fear. I choose them, I said firmly, voice unwavering. All of them. I won't let you erase them. I won't let fear or manipulation dictate their lives. They are real, they are alive, and I will protect that. The heiress's smile widened, predatory yet tinged with admiration. Then you are truly the anomaly, she whispered. The one I never anticipated. Very well, we shall see if your choices endure. A tense silence stretched across the room. Then, with a single, fluid motion, the heiress stepped aside, signaling the end of her interference. For now. She had tested us, pushed us to the brink, and revealed the fractures within our alliances. But she had underestimated one thing: the bonds we had forged in the crucible of fear, deception, and survival. Arya exhaled sharply, her chest heaving. It's over, for now. Myra's eyes softened, a rare smile breaking through her calm exterior. We survived because we trusted each other. And because he chose us. Lena's analytical mind nodded slowly. We have seen the patterns. We know the manipulations. And now, we act with clarity. Together. Sophia's small hand found mine, gripping tightly. Together, she whispered. Evelyn stepped forward, placing a steady hand on my shoulder. You made the right choice. The only choice that mattered. For a moment, time seemed to pause. The penthouse, the storm outside, the tension of the past days, all converged into a single, exhaled breath. And in that pause, I realized something profound. Survival wasn't about power, control, or deception. It was about loyalty, trust, and courage, the courage to choose others even when the path was uncertain. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes, mirrored by the others. Arya's defiance softened into relief. Lena's sharpness gave way to gratitude. Myra's calm became warmth. And Evelyn, her steady presence anchored us all. The real heiress had left, but her shadow lingered, a reminder of the chaos we had survived, the manipulations we had endured, and the choices we had made. I looked at the 5 women before me, each unique, each powerful, each alive in ways that no manipulation could erase. We're alive, I said softly, voice breaking slightly. All of us. And nothing, no storm, no deception, no heiress, can take that away. Evelyn's gaze met mine, steady and unwavering. We are more than creations. We are more than fragments. We are alive, and we will remain so, together. The storm outside finally faded completely, leaving the city washed clean, neon reflections glimmering like promises renewed. Inside the penthouse, a new calm settled over us, a fragile, hard-won peace. And in that moment, I understood the true power of choice. The lives we had lived, the identities we had assumed, the lies we had told, they all led to this singular truth. Survival was not about escaping the storm. It was about standing together in it, facing the darkness, and choosing each other over everything else. I breathed deeply, feeling the weight of the past, the intensity of the present, and the fragile hope of the future. Together, I whispered, echoing Sophia's words, but now filled with certainty, conviction, and unshakable resolve. And as we stood there, united, hearts beating in shared rhythm, I realized something profound. In the end, it wasn't the heiress, the manipulation, or the deception that defined us. It was the choices we made, the bonds we forged, and the courage to protect one another, no matter the cost. And that courage would carry us forward, into whatever came next.